Welcome back to Pokemon episode summaries. Today, I'll be doing episode 98, Meowth Rules. The episode begins with Jesse and James fixing the Magikarp sub at night. Maybe that's why they didn't use it last episode. And James is complaining because he's obviously not a fucking mechanic, and as punishment, Jesse smacks him with a wrench. Due to the Magikarp sub being beached by some rocks, this leads Meowth to have found some clamshells, and that's why he wasn't helping Jesse and James, as he was too busy rubbing up against them. James, fed up with having to do all the work and letting Meowth just sit by and do nothing, proceeds to shake Meowth, attempting to shake some money out of him so that Meowth could be useful in some way by at least supplying Team Rocket with some cash. He did this because he believed that Meowth knew the move Payday, as many other Meowths did, which essentially meant that they had a whole bunch of money stored in them. Meowth reveals, though, that since he learned how to talk, he didn't know Payday for some reason, implying that he had essentially traded out that ability that most normal Meowth had for the ability to talk. James doesn't believe him, and proceeds to continue shaking him, as Jessie comes up and claims that she heard a coin drop. Meowth, knowing that this couldn't be possible, immediately accuses James of trying to hide money that he had, and still trying to earn some more, by shaking him. James denies that he's a greedy bitch, but Jessie still decides to search him anyway, not trusting him, and all they find is his fucking trusty bottle cap. A golden bottle cap, but that didn't mean anything. James still fucking loved it, though. Anyways, all of this stupid arguing with Team Rocket is then cut off as they spot Ash and the gang in the distance riding lappers. They were currently looking for an island that they could stop at a Pokemon Center at and take a rest. However, Team Rocket then showed up, taking the opportunity of them being alone in the sea to try and steal their Pokemon as usual. They proceed to say their motto and declare their plan, but then the Magikarp sub starts to sink, indicating that they must not have repaired it very well. Good job, James. Ash takes the opportunity of Team Rocket being down to send out his Squirtle and have it use Water Gun on Jesse and James, sending them blasting off. However, Meowth was still there, so Squirtle then runs up on top of the Magikarp sub and fires a Water Gun literally directly at Meowth's face, which also sends him blasting off, but he goes right over where Team Rocket had already landed in the water, and lands on an island instead, all by himself, as Team Rocket only watched the sky, thinking that they saw a shooting star. This island, unbeknownst to Meowth at the time, was known as Golden Island, as its main attraction was a huge-ass golden Meowth statue that was heavily worshipped by a cult of people who heavily worshipped a Meowth, as they believed that one day a so-called Meowth of Bounty would bless the island and give everyone on it extreme wealth. The cult all had cat-like face paint with whiskers, and were dressed like cats as well, with the leader being especially cat-like, even having full-blown cat ears. And there was also an elder in the cult as well, who acted as a wise second-in-command to the leader. The leader just so happened to be addressing his cult, talking about the coming of Meowth, as it was supposed to happen tonight, the night of the full moon. That's why several of the cult members had went out to go searching for the Meowth, and why they came across Team Rocket's Meowth when it was currently beached, passed out. They immediately mistook it for this Meowth of Bounty that they so believed in, and proceeded to put him on a little mini throne and carry him back to the cult's base, putting him at his resting place, right in front of the golden Meowth statue. Meowth had woken up by this point, and was extremely confused when he saw all the cult members bow down to him. The leader and elder of the cult then proceeded to walk up and instruct Meowth to indulge himself on all the fruit that surrounded him, as it was their gift to him. Meowth believes that he would have to pay for it, not believing that he would just get something for free, and explains that he didn't have the money to. This obviously shocks all the cult members, not because Meowth was broke, no, but because he could talk. The prophecy never said anything about that. All of the cult members begin to express their doubt that this was actually the prophesized Meowth, even the elder, and this makes Meowth concerned, not knowing what he had done to upset them. However, the leader believes that Meowth was still the prophesized one, as he was said to be very special, and talking would indeed count as a special ability. The leader manages to convince the elder of this as well, and the elder then sees how Meowth was currently sad and stressed out, as he didn't know why everyone else was upset, and declared that the prophecy said that the Meowth also had to be happy during the wealth blessing ceremony, otherwise it wouldn't work to its full effect. Meowth tries his best to get away, still believing everyone to hate him now, but the leader and elder manage to convince the rest of the cult of the reasoning for Meowth's talking as well, so they all proceed to bow to him once more. This makes Meowth excited, and he decides that if he had a whole cult of people that were going to worship him, then he might as well take advantage of it, and he started by devouring all of the fruit that surrounded him. That was just the beginning of his indulgences, though, as the next morning he ordered an entire buffet's worth of meatballs, and the cultists obliged with no problem, leading him to get a little fucking fat with all that he ate. He didn't stop there either, as he ordered some entertainment, being beautiful dancers. These girls even came up to him and gave him some special love. Damn, Meowth fell in love instantly. He then decided to take some time for himself, playing a guitar, but being by himself caused him to zone out, thinking of Jesse and James, and this made him miss them. Despite all their constant arguments, he wanted them to be able to enjoy the luxury that he now got to enjoy as well. Just then, his thoughts were interrupted as he panicked as he spotted Ash and the gang out on the water. He knows what Ash and the gang were capable of, and if they saw him, he would likely get fucking blasted off the island, therefore never being able to contact his cult again. So, he ran up to some of the cult members and instructed them to do something to get rid of Ash and the gang. What they did surprised him, though, as they got out a remote control and brought the gold Meowth statue to life. Okay, not actually life, but it was a robot, not just a statue. The giant robot, known as the Bounty of Meowth Guard, proceeded to go after Ash and the gang, who had since arrived on the island, and immediately tried to hit them with its mechanical paw. Fortunately for Ash and the gang, the paw misses, and Ash tries to have Pikachu use Thunderbolt on the robot, but it does absolutely nothing. The Meowth robot then proceeds to chase after them, so Ash and the gang run as fast as they can, but they don't watch where they're going, as they're too fucking occupied by the gigantic Meowth in the back, and they run right off a cliff into the water, with the Meowth robot giving them a boot for an extra push. Since there was nothing of value to them on this island anyway, Ash decides to call out Lapras from his Pokeball, and Ash and the gang proceed to leave the island, looking for something better. Before the Meowth robot returned to the cult's base, it had managed to locate Jesse and James in the water as well, nearby where it threw Ash and the gang. It brings Team Rocket back with him to the base, and Team Rocket become conscious and immediately spot Meowth and question what the fuck he was doing and demand that he help them escape from this Meowth robot. Meowth, however, denies that he even knows that they exist and instead commands the Meowth robot to throw them back into the water. Now, why would he do this when he was just daydreaming about wanting to see Jesse and James again and have them live this life with him? Well, it's because after seeing Ash and the gang and realizing how they could be a threat to his potential life here, he had come to the conclusion that Jesse and James could also be a threat to his life here, as if Jesse and James were here, they could end up leading Ash and the gang here as well. It took a lot of effort for Meowth to reject Jesse and James. I mean, he still obviously cared for them, and he did want them to be on the island with him, but he just knew that it'd be too much of a risk. So, reluctantly, he instructed the Meowth robot once again to throw them into the ocean, and he did just that, with the leader accompanying him. Team Rocket questioned the leader from the water why the fuck they were seemingly worshipping Meowth as they saw him sitting in that throne. And when the leader explains his cult, Jesse and James obviously just fucking laugh in his face, obviously not believing it. And they obviously knew that Meowth couldn't be the actual worship Meowth because he couldn't learn Payday. All of this makes Team Rocket believe that not only was the cult lying, but the cult actually had a secret agenda with Meowth that they weren't telling them. Therefore, they decided to sneak back onto the island and disguise themselves as a literal bush. They then returned to the cult's base, where they saw Meowth being pampered by a whole bunch of the beautiful girls from earlier, and James was very much jealous. Just then, the leader and elder walked up to Meowth and informed him that it was finally time for the Meowth of Bounty ceremony, where Meowth would use Payday to make all the cult members extremely wealthy. Meowth instantly panicked and tried to run away at this point, as he knew the jig was up, and he couldn't pretend that he had Payday anymore. He's unable to escape, though, as the Meowth robot picks him up and begins to shake him, trying to get the first of the wealthiness out of him. However, nothing obviously comes out, which forces Meowth to reveal that he in fact was lying and he didn't know Payday, just hoping that the robot would then take mercy on him and quit shaking him rapidly. The leader believes Meowth and is obviously fucking steaming mad at this, but the elder, on the other hand, refuses to believe Meowth and suggests that he may have just forgotten how to use Payday, and suggests that if they just trained him more and leveled him up and gave him some experience, then he could relearn it. Meowth argues that this wasn't the case, trying to explain that since he could talk, it traded off his ability to learn Payday, but the elder rebuttals that Meowth was just saying this as a way to prove if they were worthy for all of the wealth that he would eventually bestow on them or not. Essentially trying to see if they really believed in him or not, and he wanted to prove that they did. So the elder ordered the Meowth robot to take Meowth to a battle stadium so he could get some battle experience in to relearn Payday. Team Rocket overheard all this and saw the Meowth robot carry Meowth, and decided to follow it, this time disguising themselves as cult members. Because, yeah, that'd probably be an easier disguise for a stadium full of cult members as opposed to a goddamn bush. As soon as Meowth is dropped into the battle stadium, the hundreds upon hundreds of cult members gather in the stands to watch as a Nidoking comes out and proceeds to battle Meowth. But really, it's more so just a chase as opposed to a battle, as the Nidoking chases Meowth around, with Meowth doing nothing in response until Meowth passes out from exhaustion. The Nidoking then tries to poke Meowth with its horn as Jesse and James watch, but then the leader orders the Nidoking to return back to where it came from, as he believes that Meowth probably now had enough experience, and instructs all the cult members to go in and search for coins that Meowth may have dropped during the battle. The cultists, eager to get rich, gladly do this, but much to their dismay, they obviously find no coins. This makes the leader declare that he was mistaken, and that Meowth hadn't gained enough experience yet, and proceeds to have an Onyx come out to battle Meowth in a second battle. This also isn't much of a battle, but unlike the one with Nidoking where it was a chase, this one's just a goddamn beating, as Meowth proceeds to get beat by a whole bunch of Onyx's tackles, and then gets wrapped into a bind attack. Jesse and James watch as Meowth takes this goddamn powerful beating, and despite how Meowth had rejected them, they immediately feel bad for Meowth, remembering all the good times they've had together, such as all the times they were blasted off by Ash, that time that they rode those unicycles with the bicycle gang, that time where their boss's HQ got blown up, and even the time that just happened last night, where Meowth was playing with the clamshells. Due to feeling bad for Meowth, they decide to help him out, and they do so by tossing a coin at the Onyx from one of the rooms nearby the stadium where the Pokemon had come out of. It must have been a powerful fucking coin, because it injures the Onyx enough to the point where it drops Meowth down on the ground. Then suddenly, even more coins appear on the ground, being thrown from the dark room. Unaware that these coins were being thrown by Jesse and James, all of the cultists excitedly believe that Meowth had learned Payday due to getting experience, and was now releasing these coins because of that, and they go to pick them up, ironically trampling over the Meowth they claim to love in the process. Meowth is obviously confused, as he doesn't understand where the coins are coming from, and we then cut to Jesse and James inside the dark room, as James decides to throw his good old lucky bottle cap. Seeing how happy all the wealth has made the people, Team Rocket determined that this would mean that Meowth would continue to get a whole bunch of great treatment as thanks, and realized that he would probably be better left on the island with them, as opposed to having to struggle with Team Rocket, being the poor fucks that they were, and they decide to leave him on the island, even after helping him. The cultists were certainly grateful for Meowth for all the wealth that they believed that he had provided, and they were so grateful that they were asking Meowth to stay and act as their permanent leader. Despite Meowth knowing that he wasn't responsible, being the asshole that he was going to take advantage of their stupidity and take up the position as a leader, therefore making him be pampered for all of eternity. The cultists then show him a huge cup of all of the collected coins, and proceed to thank him yet again. And when Meowth sees the cup of coins, he sees James' gold bottle cap on the very top. This makes him realize that Jesse and James were actually the ones responsible for releasing all the coins, and immediately feels bad for all that he did to them, and runs to them to both thank them for what they did and apologize to them for what he did. However, he can't find them, no matter where he looked. This was because Jesse and James had spotted Meowth running for them, and didn't want to risk getting spotted, because they wanted to make sure Meowth would have a better life here, and essentially not come back to them or feel pressured to. So, they had gone to hide behind a rock in hopes that Meowth couldn't find him. Eventually, though, Meowth does get very, very, very close to this rock, and he's about to find them, when suddenly, the cultists find him first, demanding that he come back to be their leader, thinking that he had tried to run away from them. Meowth then reveals the truth to them, stating how he didn't want to be their leader after all. He now wanted to rejoin Jesse and James, admitting that they were the ones who had distributed all the coins, and that he had in fact not learned payday after all. Jesse and James hear all this from behind the rock, and are very happy, as although they left Meowth behind so that he could be happy, they were ecstatic at the fact that he wanted to rejoin their poor asses. So, they came out from behind the rock, and request that Meowth rejoin them. Meowth is ecstatic, and makes sure to apologize to Jesse and James for all the shitty things that he did this episode, and instantly rejoins them, as they forgive him. Yay! Meowth almost begins bawling in happiness as he hops in the Magikarp sub with Jesse and James, and leaves with them, but not before taunting the cultists a little bit, and calling them strange, as a parting gift. The leader and elders simply stare in disbelief and frustration as the Magikarp sub disappears into the water. Meanwhile, Ash and the gang were riding Lapras to the next island, talking about what they had experienced. They obviously questioned where the fuck that Meowth robot came from, and even managed to successfully surmise that it belonged to some ancient cult somehow. But they eventually forgot about it, especially with Ash having the League on his mind, Tracy probably having some fucking girls on his mind, Misty probably having hating Psyduck on her mind, and they simply continued on to the next island, where we'll hopefully see them more. I just realized we saw none of Ash and the gang this episode. This was probably the first episode where that was the case. Now we have full episodes without Ash in Pokemon Horizons. The episode then ends with one last scene of Team Rocket fishing from their Magikarp sub, with James suggesting that they try to teach Meowth payday if all Meowth really needed was some experience. Meowth gets extremely pissed off at this, restating the fact that he couldn't learn payday even with experience, and mad at the fact that Jesse and James had still learned nothing apparently from this entire fucking episode. I guess they couldn't go without arguing for too long. We need to keep that status quo.